Search is on in Chula Vista for a mother of three who disappeared last week.
Please help us bring my sister home.
The air conditioning is running, and it's January. Every window in the house stands open to the cold, curtains stirring in a wind that shouldn't be indoors. Somewhere on this street, a security camera is quietly recording nothing important. A driveway, a mailbox, the ordinary architecture of suburban Chula Vista. Within days, investigators will replay that footage again and again. Right now, no one knows that yet. Right now, there is only a husband standing in a doorway, telling his wife's family that she's gone hiking. It's the middle of winter. She isn't dressed for hiking. She isn't answering her phone. And the house that was never messy, never cold, never like this, feels like a stage after the actors have left. Her name is Maya Millete, 39 years old, a mother of three, a woman who immigrated from the Philippines as a teenager, built a career negotiating federal contracts for the United States Navy, and became, in the words of the people who knew her, the kind of person other women in the office looked up to without being told to. She sang, she played guitar, she could put together a campsite and take apart an argument with the same steady confidence. She met her husband Larry when they were both teenagers working a fast food counter in Honolulu. They married young, moved to Southern California together, and built parallel careers on the same naval base. Larry as an optician, Maya negotiating contracts worth far more than either of their salaries. For a decade, they waited before having children. Then came three of them, and by every outward measure, a family that looked, from the driveway, like it had figured something out that most families never do. On January 7th, 2021, she made an appointment with a divorce attorney. That night at 8:15, she sent a text message to one of her sisters. It is the last message anyone receives from her. By 1:25 the following morning, her phone has gone dark. No signal, no location, nothing. Her husband's phone goes dark within the same window. He will later say they argued. He will later say she needed space. He will say a great many things calmly over the following days, and almost none of them will hold. Her family arrives first. Her brother knocks on a locked bedroom door and gets silence in return. He assumes she's asleep. 2 days pass before anyone insists on more than that. And when Maya's sister and brother-in-law finally walk through the house themselves, the cold air pouring through open windows, a home that no longer looks like the one they visited a week earlier, they report her missing. The response, they will say, feels thin. Officers ask questions and leave. There is no urgency in the room, even as a mother of three has now been unreachable for the better part of 3 days. On January 10th, her daughter turns another year older, and the family gathers for the birthday Maya spent weeks planning. A ski trip to Big Bear, a cake, a life uninterrupted. They watch the door instead of the cake. She never walks through it. Her daughter asks later why her mother didn't come, and no one in that house has an answer that a child can survive hearing. What the adults notice instead is her husband, relaxed, barefoot, unbothered. That contrast is what pulls a private investigator into the case 4 days after Maya disappears. A former Navy criminal defense investigator named Billy Little, brought in by a friend of the family who simply couldn't stand by. He talks his way into the house. He finds the windows open in every room, as if someone has been airing something out. He looks for the ordinary signs of a domestic disturbance, bruising, defensive wounds, damage, and finds instead 2 freshly patched holes, one beside the bedroom door handle, one on the wall above it, too high for Maya to have made herself. Larry has an explanation ready for both. Neither explanation survives contact with common sense. Little starts knocking on doors up and down the block, chasing down whatever cameras the neighborhood has quietly been running all along. What he finds rewrites the entire timeline. At 10:30 that night, a neighbor's camera picks up the sound of the Millete children playing outside. In January, after 10 p.m., in temperatures in the high 40s, on a school night. Another camera, aimed at the garage, catches Larry backing the family Lexus inside at 5:58 the next morning. He leaves the house at 6:45 and doesn't return for nearly 12 hours. And from a third camera, quieter than the rest, come the loud, flat cracks of what a neighbor's audio has captured just before 10 p.m. Sounds that, laid next to everything else, start to sound less like a storm door and more like gunfire. Investigators are slower to move than the family would like. Weeks pass with what feels, to Maya's siblings, like silence from the department that's supposed to be searching for her. So the family builds its own search instead. Flyers, hiking trails, local news appearances, a sister on television asking strangers to help find her blood. It works in the sense that it keeps Maya's name in front of the public. A true crime author who stumbles across the story on the news finds herself unable to look away from it, drawn in by the same detail that unsettles everyone who touches this case. A woman this capable, this deliberate, this loved, does not simply vanish mid-sentence. It does not bring her home. What does start to surface, slowly, is who Larry Millete has become over the previous year. Friends describe an obsession that deepened through 2020 as Maya pulled away from a marriage she'd quietly decided was over. He tracks her spending. He gets into her social media. He accuses her, without evidence, of affairs with co-workers and threatens to report those affairs to her employer, knowing exactly what that would cost her. He floods her family with text messages, quoting scripture about adulterous women and the road that leads to the grave. Messages about Maya, aimed at Maya, delivered to everyone around her instead. He installs speakers under their bed and plays subliminal audio while she sleeps, a looping whisper, repeating two words: no more men. When Maya finds the speakers and confronts him, he doesn't deny it. And when none of that works, when control, surveillance, and scripture fail to hold his marriage together, he turns to something stranger. Investigators later recover records of Larry paying strangers online to cast spells on his wife. At first, the requests are almost pathetic in their desperation. Bind her to him, make her fall in love again. He leaves a 5-star review for one spellcaster, thanking her for her professionalism, as though rating a rideshare driver instead of confessing, in writing, to a plan. But by the fall of 2020, the requests change. He builds an altar in the house, a photograph of the two of them, doused in blood, and starts asking, explicitly, for Maya to be hurt. Incapacitate her, punish her, make her dependent on him again, even if it takes an accident, even if it takes a broken bone. On the day she disappears, he is still emailing spellcasters, describing himself as shaking, ready to snap. She never gets the chance to leave him the way she planned to. The last certain thing anyone knows about Maya Millete's final hours is that home security cameras catch her arriving back at the house at 4:42 in the afternoon on January 7th. No camera ever catches her leaving. It takes investigators months to build a case they're confident bringing to a jury. And it takes Larry's own family circle 9 of those months to watch him be named, quietly and then not so quietly, a person of interest. Along the way, searches of the house turn up an arsenal: handguns, a rifle, a shotgun, an illegal assault weapon, along with a photograph on his phone of the couple's 4-year-old son surrounded by firearms. a restraining order follows. Then, on October 19th, 2021, a SWAT team moves in, and Larry Millete is arrested for his wife's murder. He pleads not guilty. He maintains for years that Maya might still be alive somewhere, that she chose to disappear. His defense will eventually argue that she could have slipped out through the backyard, over a fence, into a drainage ditch, unseen by any of the cameras that seemed to catch everything else that week. It is a theory built entirely around what the evidence doesn't show, offered by a man who never takes the stand to explain what it does. The case that finally reaches trial 5.5 years after Maya vanished has no body, no confession, no murder weapon recovered, only the architecture of a marriage collapsing in real time, documented by the man who tried to save it through obsession and lost her to the one thing he couldn't control. Over 7 weeks, more than 60 witnesses walk prosecutors through that architecture. The tracking, the scripture, the altar, the speakers under the bed, the timeline of that January night stitched together frame by frame from other people's security cameras. The prosecution never claims to know exactly how Maya died. It doesn't have to. It only has to show that her husband was the last person with the motive, the means, and the opportunity, and that everything he did in the days and months afterward looks far less like grief than like a man managing a cover story. The jury deliberates for just under 5 hours. When they return, the courtroom goes still. In the particular way a room goes still when everyone already suspects what's coming and is bracing for it anyway. Larry Millete is found guilty of first-degree murder. He turns to his parents as the verdict is read, his face reddening, and says nothing. The San Diego County District Attorney will later say that justice has finally been served for Maya and for everyone who has carried the weight of her absence, that a verdict cannot erase years of grief, but it affirms that no victim is forgotten. Outside the courthouse, Maya's sister, the same woman who made the first call to police 5 years earlier, who searched hillsides with a photograph in her hand, who stood in her sister's kitchen and felt the wrongness of open windows in January before anyone else was willing to say it out loud, tells reporters that this is only the first step. Maya still hasn't been found. Her children are still waiting to bring their mother home. Not just her name, not just a verdict, but her. Somewhere in Chula Vista, the house where this began still stands. The windows close normally now, but the questions that opened with them, where she is, what happened to her in those final hours, whether the ground will ever give her back, remain exactly as open as they were on the night the air conditioning ran through an empty house in the middle of winter. If you want to be there when the next chapter of this case comes to light, the sentencing, the search for what's still missing, follow along. Because cases like Maya's don't end with a verdict. They end when someone is finally brought home.